Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Inspirational Sunday. Today is Sunday, February the 20th. We are back picking right up where we left off in the last episode. We are reading Genesis chapter 4. If you haven't seen the last video, we are reading the whole entirety of the Holy Bible. We are reading from the Common English Version. Again, we do correspond with King James Version or any other version where you are also able to compare the different versions, just to clarify whatever we may be reading here. Again, I am used to reading the King James Version, but for the purpose of really learning and understanding, we're going to go with the Common English Version. So let's begin with Genesis chapter 4, titled Cain Murders Abel. Verse 1. Adam and Eve had a son. Then Eve said, "I'll name him Cain, because I got him with the help of the Lord." Later she had another son and named him Abel. Abel became a sheep farmer, but Cain farmed the land. One day Cain gave part of his harvest to the Lord, and Abel also gave an offering to the Lord. He killed the firstborn lamb from one of his sheep and gave the Lord the best parts of it. The Lord was pleased with Abel and his offering, but not with Cain and his offering. This made Cain so angry that he could not hide his feelings. The Lord said to Cain, "What's wrong with you? Why do you look so angry? If you had done the right thing, you would be smiling. But you did the wrong thing, and now sin is waiting to attack you like a lion. Sin wants to destroy you, but don't let it." Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go for a walk." And when they were out in the field, Cain attacked and killed him. Afterwards the Lord asked Cain, "Where is Abel?" "How should I know?" he answered. "Am I supposed to look after my brother?" Then the Lord said, "Why have you done this terrible thing? You killed your own brother, and his blood flowed onto the ground. Now his blood is calling out for me to punish you. And so I'll put you under a curse. Because you killed Abel and made his blood run onto the ground, you will never be able to farm it again. When you try to farm the land, it won't produce anything for you. From now on, you will be without a home, and you will spend the rest of your life wandering from place to place." "The punishment is too hard," Cain said. "This punishment is too hard," Cain said. "You're making me leave my home and live far from you. I will have to wander about without a home, and just anyone could kill me." "No," the Lord answered. "Anyone who kills you will be punished 7 times worse than I am punishing you." So the Lord put a mark on Cain to warn everyone not to kill him. But Cain had to go far from the Lord and live in the land of wandering, which is east of Eden. Later, Cain and his wife had a son named Enoch. At that time, Cain was building a town, and so he named it Enoch after his son. Then Enoch had a son named Irad. Then Enoch had a son named Irad. Again, forgive me if I mispronounce any of these names. If you happen to know the pronunciations, I apologize for that. But again, verse 18. Then Enoch had a son named Irad, who had a son named Mehujael, who had a son named Methuselah, who had a son named Lamech. Lamech married Ada, then Zillah. Lamech and Ada had 2 sons, Jabal and Jubal. Their son Jabal was the first to live in tents and raise sheep and goats. Jubal was the first to play harps and flutes. Lamech and Zillah had a son named Tubal-Cain, who made tools out of bronze and iron. They also had a daughter whose name was Naamah. One day Lamech said to his 2 wives, "A young man wounded me, and I killed him. Anyone who tries to get even with me will be punished 10 times more than anyone who tries to get even with Cain." Adam and his wife had another son. They named him Seth, because they said, "God has given us a son to take the brother Cain. Later, Seth had a son and named him Enosh. About this time, people started worshiping the Lord. Descendants of Adam. God created men and women to be like himself. He gave them his blessing and called them human beings. The following is a list of the descendants of Adam, the first man. When Adam was 130, he had a son who was just like him, and he named him Seth. Adam had more children and died at the age of 930. Wow, I would love that. And maybe I wouldn't. You never know. Verse 6. When Seth was 105, he had a son named Enosh. Seth had more children and died at the age of 912. When Enosh was 90, he had a son named Kenan. Enosh had more children and died at the age of 905. When Kenan was 70, he had a son named Mahalalel. Kenan had more children and died at the age of 910. When Mahalalel was 65, he had a son named Jared. Mahalalel had more children and died at the age of 895. When Jared was 162, he had a son named Enoch. Jared had more children and died at the age of 962. When Enoch was 65, he had a son named Methuselah. And during the next 300 years, he had more children. Enoch truly loved God, and God took him away at the age of 365. 365. There's 365 days in a year. Keep that in mind. That would be a note that I would take down, just comparing what I read from the Bible to our life or my life today, right? That's what I usually do. So 365 right away, 365 days in a year, that's just what I compare it to. But there you go. Verse 25, when Methuselah was 187, and just to get back to it, Enoch was a very, we're going to get to him like in the future readings, but that man just literally just walked. Was it him who walked into heaven? He just walked until he was no more. It said in the King James Version that Enoch, well, he loved the Lord, and one day he just walked, he was walking with the Lord, and he just walked until he was no more. I think it said till he was not, or something like that. It said Enoch walked until he was not. He just walked, and then walked into heaven. Come on, man. Come on, man. That's a role model right there, okay? Right, Samuel? That's a role model, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
It says, and Enoch walked with God after he begot Methuselah 300 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 60 and 5 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him.
He just walked. Yo, this man just walked up into heaven like, yo, it's good. Come on. Okay. Sorry, guys. I get a little bit excited when I really get in depth with these things, man. And I'm just saying sorry because you're probably wondering why is this guy like. But you'll get it. You'll get it.
Because can you imagine? Your relationship with God.
It's so close.
It's so close
that He just takes you. It's just like, come on, because that's the thing.
Yeah.
You're literally just walking, because he was walking with God, right, at the time. And God was just like, you know what, I can't let this guy go back there. You know? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, you're coming with me, man. It's
so
VIP. It's VIP.
Yeah.
God was just like, yo, you've done all you can on the earth. Just come on. Just come on. Just come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it gets me excited though. Like, I'll be honest, it gets me excited reading the word, learning all these things. Again, back there in verse 22, right, what we just read, it said God took him away at the age of 365. The first thing that comes to my mind is that's where the days of the year came from. 365 days. I could be wrong, but I'm just saying it stands out to me, and a lot of things are going to stand out. And maybe get some gears turning in your brain, so let's continue on.
Oh, also, before you continue, a lot of people, when talking about Jesus, they, because they say, oh, he had God in him,
right,
that, he was too perfect, so we can't be modeled after him. But look at Enoch. Enoch
Enoch was not Jesus.
No.
Jesus
And yet,
wasn't even here on the earth yet.
And yet, he had such a close relationship.
Such a close that God was just like, yo.
And was faithful to God. And that's what God looks,
Because see,
from us.
the next thing here, we always have to watch the wording. The wording that God uses, or that's used in the Bible to describe certain people, certain actions.
Yeah.
Watch that wording, because it says Enoch truly loved God.
About that.
Right?
Truly loved
So
God.
people love God.
Yeah.
But Enoch truly loved God. That's just something that stands out.
Because there's loving God, and then there's loving God unconditionally till you would do whatever He asked.
If God said, "Hey, walk into that wall,"
whatever He said,
He's not going to say it. But I'm just saying, if He said, "Yo, walk into that wall," or punch that tree or something, like you do
and
it.
You're careful when you're so in love. Honestly, with someone, you're careful not to hurt them.
Very careful.
You're careful not to do the things that bring grief to them. And I believe this was Enoch, one who truly loved God.
And God was impressed.
Yeah.
This was the early days of mankind, but God was just so impressed
Of course.
that He's just like, "Yo, come on, let's go."
Yeah. But it goes to show we can also model that as well.
That's why I said He's a role model right there. That's a role model. Don't be like me, Sammy. There's a role model right there. I'm trying to be like that too, Verse 25, when Methuselah was 187, he had a son named Lamech. Methuselah had more children and died at the age of 969. Wow. When Lamech was 182, he had a son. Lamech said, "I'll name him Noah, because he will give us comfort, as we struggle hard to make a living on this land that the Lord has put under a curse." Lamech had more children and died at the age of 777. I love that number. I love the number 7. It's a very special number. And over the course of his readings, you'll realize that too.
Another note, Methuselah was the longest living in the Bible. He lived longer than Adam.
969.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Adam died at 930.
If we go back, Adam died at 930.
Yeah.
So Methuselah was the longest living human being. Because nobody lived longer than him.
No.
Last verse of this chapter, verse 32. After Noah was 500 years old, he had 3 sons and named them Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The Lord will send a flood. More and more people were born until finally they had spread all over the earth. Some of their daughters were so beautiful that supernatural beings came down and married the ones they wanted. Then the Lord said, "I won't let my life-giving breath remain in anyone forever. No one will live for more than 120 years." We can see that come into play. A lot of people might read the beginning and be like, "Well, if we were living that long, how come we don't live that long anymore?" Here you go. There's the reason right there. Verse 4. The children of the supernatural beings who had married these women became famous heroes and warriors. They were called Nephilim and lived on the earth at that time, and even later. The Lord saw how bad the people on earth were, and that everything they thought and planned was evil. He was sorry that He had made them, and He said, "I'm going to destroy every person on earth. I'll even wipe out animals, birds, and reptiles. I'm sorry I ever made them." But the Lord was pleased with Noah, and this is the story about him. Noah was the only person who lived right and obeyed God. He had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. God knew that everyone was terribly cruel and violent, so He told Noah, "Cruelty and violence have spread everywhere. Now I'm going to destroy the whole earth and all its people. Get some good lumber and build a boat. Put rooms in it and cover it with tar inside and out. Make it 133 meters long, 22 meters wide, and 13 meters high. Build a roof on the boat and leave a space of about 44 centimeters between the roof and the sides. Make the boat 3 stories high and put a door on one side. I'm going to send a flood that will destroy everything that breathes. Nothing will be left alive. But I solemnly promise that you, your wife, your sons, and your daughters-in-law will be kept safe in the boat. Take in the boat with you a male and female of every kind of animal and bird, as well as a male and female of every reptile. I don't want them to be destroyed. Store up enough food both for yourself and for them. Noah did everything God told him to do. Genesis chapter 7, the flood. The Lord told Noah, take your whole family with you into the boat, because you are the only one on this earth who pleases me. You gotta take that into consideration at that time. The earth was probably not as populated as it is today, but it said in the previous chapter that, there was many people that they spread all over the earth. And for God to say that you are the only people who please me on the entire earth, that's bad, man. I can't even imagine that. Even if there was thousands of people, that's still just one guy and his family are the only people, doing right. You know what I mean? Wow. So the Lord told Noah, take your whole family with you into the boat, because you are the only one on this earth who pleases me. Take 7 pairs of every kind of animal that can be used for sacrifice, and 1 pair of all others. Also, take 7 pairs. Take 7 pairs of every kind of bird with you. Do this so there will always be animals and birds on the earth. 7 days from now, I'm just saying, 7 days from now, I will send rain that will last for 40 days and nights, and I will destroy all other living creatures I have made. Noah was 600 years old when he went into the boat to escape the flood, and he did everything the Lord had told him to do. His wife, his sons, and his daughters-in-law all went inside with him. He obeyed God and took a male and a female of each kind of animal and bird into the boat with him. 7 days later, a flood began to cover the earth. The water under the earth started gushing out everywhere. The sky opened like windows, and rain poured down for 40 days and nights. All this began on the 17th day of the 2nd month. On that day, Noah and his wife went into the boat with their 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. They took along every kind of animal, tame and wild, including the birds. Noah took a male and a female of every living creature with him, just as God had told him to do. And when they were all in the boat, the Lord closed the door. The Lord closed the door. Okay? Noah couldn't close that door. The Lord closed the door. Just a detail to keep in your mind. Okay? For 40 days, the rain poured down without stopping, and the water became deeper and deeper until the boat started floating high above the ground. Finally, the mighty flood was so deep that even the highest mountain peaks were about 7 meters below the surface of the water. Not a bird, animal, reptile, or human was left alive anywhere on earth. The Lord destroyed everything that breathed. Nothing was left alive except Noah and the others in the boat. 150 days later, the water started going down. All I can say is, man, don't mess with God. He ain't flooded nobody now, but come on, he still has his way to punish us if we misbehave. Genesis chapter 8, the water goes down. God did not forget about Noah and the animals with him in the boat. So God made a wind blow, and the water started going down. God stopped up the places where the water had been gushing out from under the earth. He also closed up the sky, and the rain stopped. For 150 days, the water slowly went down. Then, on on the 17th day of the 7th month of the year. Like, come on. Come on, we're just in the first book, but I'm just putting it out there, okay? Then on the 17th day of the 7th month of the year, the boat came to rest somewhere in the Ararat Mountains. Ararat Mountains. Just had to clarify that. The water kept going down, and the mountaintops could be seen on the first day of the 10th month. 40 days later, Noah opened a window to send out a raven, but it kept flying around until the water had dried up. Noah wanted to find out if the water had gone down, so he sent out a dove. Deep water was still everywhere, and when the dove could not find a place to land, it flew back to the boat. Then Noah held out his hand and helped it back in. 7 days later, Noah sent the dove out again. It returned in the evening, holding in its beak a green leaf from an olive tree. Noah knew the water was finally going down. He waited 7 more days before sending the dove out again, and this time it did not return. Noah was now 601 years old, and by the first day of that year, almost all the water had gone away. Noah made an opening in the roof of the boat and saw that the ground was getting dry. By the 27th day of the 2nd month, the earth was completely dry. God said to Noah, "You, your wife, your sons, and your daughters-in-law may now leave the boat. Let out the birds, animals, and reptiles, so they can mate and live all over the earth." After Noah and his family had left the boat, the living creatures left in groups of their own kind. The Lord's promise for the earth. Noah built an altar where he could offer sacrifices to the Lord. Then he offered on the altar one of each kind of animal and bird that could be used for a sacrifice. The smell of the burning offering pleased the Lord, and he said, "Never again will I punish the earth for the sinful things its people do. All of them have evil thoughts from the time that they are young, but I will never destroy everything that breathes as I did this time. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, day and night." Okay guys, we're going to leave it there. That was Genesis chapter 8. Few things that I want to make note of is, again, as I mentioned earlier, the number 7. I believe that's very significant to God, and I'm making that number very significant to me. So just a little explanation on the Nephilim, right? So as we see here in Genesis chapter 6 verse 4, it says the children of the supernatural beings. So let's go back a little bit earlier. So verse 1, it says more and more people were born until finally they spread over the earth. Some of their daughters were so beautiful that supernatural beings. Now, the supernatural beings here are referring to the fallen angels, right? Right, because when Lucifer was thrown out of heaven, he had followers who fell with him, right? So I believe.
The actual name fallen angels is not in the Bible.
So
well, they don't call them fallen angels. They're just one were cast.
They were casted out of heaven. I know that's how we interpreted it. That they were fallen angels from the movies, the stories. Oh, they fell from the sky. So it doesn't necessarily have to happen that way. Right. That's just how we translated it, or how we fathom it. Because our minds can, come on, they're supernatural beings, right? Spiritual world.
Warfare in heaven after, rebelled.
Well, it's not a war. It's not a war because.
I know, but I meant because God is not going to do it. He's sent to
God don't want to.
Michael,
God's just sitting on his throne like this. You know what I'm saying? He's just like the boss. He's got his right hand, his left hand. You know what I'm saying? Jesus is up there. The Holy Spirit is sitting up there. And then Lucifer gets up. Can you imagine? It's true. Like my wife said, Lucifer gets up and he's like, "Yo, Father, I think I should be in your place." And God just gives him a look, and he just looks over at Michael. Be like, "Yo, Michael, what's wrong with your little brother here? Yo, get him out of my sight." You know what I'm saying? And Lucifer is like, "Yo, I got my boys here." And a couple of the angels jump up and be like, "Yeah, man, Lucifer should be king." And Michael's just like, "Wait a minute, what are you saying? Get out of here, boy." And Michael just grabs Lucifer by the ear and just tosses him through the door. Have you seen Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when Uncle Phil gets Jazz and just chucks him through the door and Jazz is like, "Ah!" That's all that happened to him. He can't uprise, man. Come on, God is Big Daddy. And Michael just grabbed Lucifer by the ear and his little, his spiritual beings, fallen angels, as we call them. But here it says that the daughters were so beautiful that supernatural beings, they came down and married the ones they wanted. Okay? So right here it says that in verse 4, the children of the supernatural beings who had married those women became famous heroes and warriors. They were called Nephilim and lived at the earth that time and even later.
Yeah, because
so now,
again, they will appear again in Numbers. Remember we were reading
the Nephilim?
Yeah. In Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when the people, when Moses sent them to go and look?
Yeah, and they saw Nephilim.
They saw Nephilim.
Yeah.
So
don't worry, we're not here that. We're also doing our own little family Bible study. Like I said in the first video, we do that every single day. Right, so every evening we read. We finished First Chronicles.
We're in Second Chronicles.
We finished First Chronicles last night, and so we're starting Second Chronicles tonight. But again, I didn't want to just jump there with you guys. I want to start from the beginning with us. So with the family, we're a little bit ahead. No spoilers, don't worry. But don't worry, we're gonna get there too, and it's great. I know it is only Sunday. Maybe I'll do it a little bit more often, so you don't have to wait a full week, 7 days. 7, just saying. Maybe you don't have to wait a full 7 days for, every episode. If it's something you'd like to see, please let me know in the comment section. But back to the quick topic here about the Nephilim. So the Nephilim were basically giants. They're very strong. As it says here, they were famous heroes and warriors. Obviously, because spiritual beings mixed with the humans, it probably wasn't a thing that was supposed to happen, but because of that, those humans were born, with extraordinary, probably extra strength, maybe a little bit of, just raw power type thing, because it says here they were famous heroes and warriors. We will hear much more about them, further reading on, like my wife said. So that's what it is. The supernatural beings are the fallen angels. They're not fallen, they were just casted out of heaven. They never really said fallen. But that's just how we perceive it, and what we said, so we can understand basically. But yeah, the Nephilim, they lived on the earth at that time, even later. And obviously those supernatural beings were casted out of heaven, so they weren't up to no good. They weren't up to anything good. And the Lord saw how bad the people on earth were, and that everything they thought and planned was evil. Okay, guys, thanks for sticking out with us. Next Sunday we will be reading Genesis chapter 9, titled God's Promise to Noah. As always, I'm your humble host, Picasso. I'll see you then. Stay blessed.